What is truth? Truth in definition is characterized by having a factual or realistic basis. In everyday speech, the concept of truth is usually applied to anything that attempts to represent reality or somehow relate to it, such as beliefs, propositions, and declarative phrases. While truth in the definition of metaphysics and philosophy of language are statements, assertions, ideas, thoughts, or recommendations spoken in casual conversation and can support the truth or declare the obvious. Truth is the aim of belief and falsity is a fault. Since we have already learned the three types of knowledge claims, which are empirical claims, analytic claims, and evaluative claims, along with the kinds of statements that represent these knowledge claims from Module 1 to 3, let us now discuss Module 4, which tackles the theories of truth. Let us first start with the objective of Module 4. This module has three objectives. First, compare and contrast coherence and correspondence theory of truth. Second, differentiate the different versions of the correspondence theory. And lastly, apply the method of verification by intersubjective consensus. Now, let us tackle the first objective. According to Professor Andresito Acuña, the coherence theory of truth is less problematic than the correspondence theory of truth. Let us begin with defining the word coherence. Coherence means the attribute of making sense or being logical and consistent. Coherence is also a relational term, and this means the coherence theory of truth must relate to at least two philosophical categories. The coherence theory of truth means that any version of coherence theory must consider the nature of the first and second categories and the coherence relation that can be obtained between the two philosophical categories. The two philosophical categories of the coherence theory of truth are the formal knowledge claim and the formal systems. The formal knowledge claims are like analytic statements. What is an analytic statement? Just like what is mentioned in Module 2, the analytic statement, defined by Kant, is a statement that uses subject-predicate form and determines the truth value through the meanings of its terms. Let's take, for example, the statement, puppies or young dogs. If this is the first term, then the second term must cohere with how the term puppy is used in the English language. The coherence here means coherence with the use of definition or the term in the linguistic system. The second philosophical category is the formal systems, such as mathematics, logic, geometry, and linguistics, as well as the empirical systems. An example of this is a mathematical statement or claim like 5 plus 7 is equals to 12. This means that the coherence with the formal system is arithmetic. Another example of this is in the form of tautological statements. What are tautological statements, you may ask? Tautological statements are two words or phrases that express the same meaning in an unnecessary and usually unintentional way. For example, just like what is seen in the video, the nursery rhymes, the wheels on the bus go round and round, either I graduate or I don't, to be or not to be. If your statement is true, then it is true. These are examples of tautological statements that are logical coherence with the formal system of symbolic logic. Or if the statements are, the sum of the angles of a triangle is equal to 180 degrees, a square is a geometric figure with 4 equal sides, two lines that are parallel will not meet, then it is a well-formed formula of geometry. In essence, the coherence theory of truth is that your formal or analytic statement or claim would only become true if it coheres or is consistent with the formal system with which it relates. Now, let us move on to their correspondence theory of truth. Correspondence, like coherence, is also a relational term. Thus, this theory must relate to at least two philosophical categories. Correspondence theory of truth refers to a veracity or falsehood assertion based on how the world is related to it, and whether it's truthful explains the setting. Similar to the coherence theory of truth, the correspondence theory of truth has two philosophical categories, namely, the empirical knowledge claim and the theory of reality. Let's define what an empirical knowledge claim and theory of reality are. An empirical knowledge claim is a claim based on an observation or experience, while the theory of reality means it is assumed to exist without needing evidence. If something is real, then it is simply real. To better understand, let us examine the claim, "The cat is on the mat." For this claim to be true, what it asserts must correspond with the state of affairs where there is a cat and the mat, and the cat is on the top of the mat. If what the statement asserts corresponds to the state of affairs, the claim is true. If it does not correspond, then it is false. However, do you remember what Professor Andresito Acuña said about the correspondence theory being more controversial than the coherence theory of truth? Let us use the claim, "The cat is on the mat" again as an example. The correspondence theory of truth has become more controversial among philosophers because if you can illustrate or show that there is a cat on the mat and the cat is on top of the mat, then your empirical claim is true. However, Bertrand Russell said if the negation of the statement that there is no cat on the mat is true, we cannot prove the negative fact that there is no cat on the mat. This is a negative fact and we cannot use the correspondence theory of truth because it cannot show that they correspond with each other. As you can see here with this statement, "There is no cat on the mat," you can only illustrate the mat if you use "there is no elephant on the mat" to prove that there is no cat on the mat. You can only see the mat. You could not verify that there is no cat on the mat using the correspondence theory of truth because you cannot correlate that there is no cat on the mat by using the outside factor that there is an elephant on the mat. This is the problem of the correspondence theory of truth. You can only have positive facts but not negative ones. Next is the reverse version of the correspondence theory of truth. This is useful for verifying empirical claims and evaluative claims. It is the version that allowed the most primitive man to survive in the contemporary period and is found in almost all naturally evolved languages. It may vary on the past, present, future, and generalizations. Let us start with the present event. If the claim is about the present, it corresponds to direct observation so you can see and observe what is happening. So, for example, you can say, "I am very attentive today," or "The girl beside me is wearing a red dress." You can observe what is happening in the present, allowing you to make that claim. Next is the future event. If the claim predicts a future event, then we appeal to the evidence of observation of past regularities. The verification by correspondence here means correspondence with future observation. For example, "The sun will rise tomorrow," or "Dark clouds tells us that it is going to rain." It is something that you notice in the past which makes it more accurate or validates and supports the claim for the future. In essence, these claims were observed before which allowed the person to make such claims for it might happen again. Next is the past event. This one uses documents and testimony of eyewitnesses to verify the claim about the past. For example, People Power 1 succeeded due to US intervention. This event has documents and testimonies of eyewitnesses, so the claim is verified and supported with those documents. Last is the empirical generalization. Suppose the claim corresponds with the evidence provided by the representative sample of the population concerned. For example, almost all UP students who study hard finish their courses. So you can see that the claim here is supported by the people it refers to, the UP students. Next, we have the verification by intersubjective consensus. Since this is confusing to understand, we will start by using the evaluative claim that stealing is wrong. This claim is a generalization of the intersubjective consensus of real people playing a language game while sharing a form of life. So, to verify this intersubjective consensus, we must use the correspondence theory of truth that we have discussed earlier. If you accept this claim, you claim that a strong intersubjective consensus supports your evaluative judgment. The gathering of this intersubjective consensus is an empirical task, because it is the task of complying with the process of verification using the correspondence theory of truth. It is made easier if and when there is already an existing generalization of the intersubjective consensus of the people concerned. This means an intersubjective consensus about moral and immoral behavior has already been codified as a moral rule or principle. Additionally, we have what we call proscriptions and prescriptions. These are evaluative inferences from evaluative judgment ascertain what is good, moral, virtuous, desirable, or just. For example, if you accept premarital sex as wrong, you must also accept the prescription, do not engage in premarital sex is right. This prescription is falsifiable by offering an evaluative claim that premarital sex is good. And lastly, there are two types of justification, namely deontological and teleological. The deontological is a justification of policy where the policy is good in itself and the consequence of the policy is unimportant, while teleological is a type of justification where the policy is only good if the consequence results in beneficial consequences for the country. The policy is neither good nor bad. Still, the consequences determine if the policy is good or bad. And now, let us move on to Module 5.
What is critical thinking? Critical thinking in layman's terms is the capacity for effectively used analysis of information and judgment making. However, to think critically, you must be conscious of your personal biases and assumptions when you come across information and use uniform standards when assessing sources. On the other hand, critical thinking in philosophy is defined as the ability to make reasoned decisions or rational choices regarding what to believe or do. Also, it is the process of using and analyzing justifications to evaluate claims, presumptions, and arguments in everyday circumstances, wherein the purpose of this process is to assist us in developing excellent beliefs, where good refers to beliefs that satisfy particular criteria for logic, usefulness, or truth. For us to fully understand what critical thinking is, here are some examples of applications of this in real life. Assessing information from the internet. Students need critical thinking skills to filter fake news, Twitter bots, and altered images, as increased access to information demands an understanding of sources, intentions, and representation. The second example is decision-making in purchasing. People need to know the importance of critical thinking in today's digital age, highlighting the need for consumers to consider various things when making purchases. Making informed decisions require critical thinking in the age of the internet's abundance of information. Aside from that, it leads us to another question. Who are critical thinkers? Critical thinkers possess the traits and skills that enable them to think critically when necessary. A critical thinker can conclude the implications of what he knows. He also understands how to apply knowledge to solve issues and find reliable sources of information. In addition, a critical thinker seeks knowledge and works to acquire it by mentally analyzing arguments and the connections between those arguments and potential beliefs. Moving on, now that we know what critical thinking is and who critical thinkers are, we can proceed in the discussion proper of Module 5 of Unit 2 entitled Your Obligation as a Critical Thinker by Professor Acuña. But before that, here are the key points to tackle. First is the obligation of critical thinkers. Second is the three realms of knowledge claims, the known, the knowable, and the unknowable. Lastly is the provable and the unprovable. With that, we will be first tackling the obligation of critical thinkers. According to Professor Acuña, philosophy students should commit themselves to one obligation as critical thinkers. What is the most important thing to remember as a critical thinker? It is to never accept the truth of any statement or belief unless there is an adequate evidence for it. This statement means that the evidence is used to support claims made by people or organizations who anticipate something is true or fact. As an alternative, evidence is utilized to refute or reject a fact, argument, or claim that others don't agree with or believe to be false. Likewise, if the evidence supporting a belief is insufficient, then the only option is to reject the belief or suspend judgment. On one hand, William Kingdon Clifford, a British mathematician and philosopher, claims it is wrong always, everywhere, and for anyone to believe anything upon insufficient evidence. Furthermore, W.K. Clifford refers to the evidence as experiences and reasoning relevant to judging whether a belief is likely true or untrue. Before anything else, to be true critical thinkers, we must distinguish the differences or distinctions between the three knowledge claims. Moreover, this will be helpful in determining whether we should believe the statement or not, depending where these statements would fall under the three realms, provided that we are tackling the three realms of knowledge claims, the known, the knowable, and the unknowable. First, the realm of the known. This type of knowledge claim is proven facts or true, supported by empirical science. In other words, these are empirical evidence based on observations. Additionally, empirical science helps us to acquire knowledge in the realm of the known. In fact, it is proven beyond doubt or provable. These are facts we know now that were once in the realm of the knowable. For better understanding of the concept, here are some examples. DNA testing, animal cloning. Scientists only theorized about these processes a few years ago. But as we all know, with the help of science, these processes become possible and feasible. Second, the realm of the knowable is the extrapolation from the realm of the known, and science is still exploring and studying this kind of realm. Besides, there is ongoing research on the realm of the knowable to improve human understanding, and at the same time, the claims undergo through examination. Thus, it is also considered provable. The following are some examples of the realm of the knowable. The origin of the universe. The origin of life on Earth. Until now, scientists have continuous studies on these claims. The third and last is the realm of unknowable, wherein a claim not supported by evidence falls under this realm. Therefore, these claims are considered to be unprovable. All unprovable claims cannot produce any evidence to verify or prove those claims. Also, these are empirical claims can produce evidence whether in principle or in fact. Some great examples of these are heaven and hell, superstitions. Up until now, there is no solid evidence to prove or disprove the claim that heaven and hell exist. The same goes for superstitions wherein there is no evidence proving its existence. Lastly, we will be tackling the difference between the provable and unprovable. The claims are considered provable if the claims are only in the realm of the known or knowable, whereas if the claim is unknowable, then it is unprovable. In other words, unprovable is unknowable, or the unknowable is unprovable. To sum up the Module 5, these are the important things we should know as critical thinkers. One is we should not accept statements by persons in authority to practice healthy skepticism or not accept claims that are unprovable. And last is we only accept the truth of the beliefs if it's in the realm of the known. We suspend judgments if the beliefs fall under the realm of the knowable. And we must reject all the beliefs in the realm of the unknowable.
That is all for P5. Thank you for listening.